Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled Winter and Wellbeing, finding comfort in the spirit of Hygge. So, Monday, the 12th of January, the second Monday of the year, has become one of those days that has been marked out on our yearly calendar. Not an official public holiday, far from it actually. We don't have another one of those until Easter, I'm afraid. But it's a day that we mark, or people have begun to mark. It's known, I don't know if you've heard this, as Blue Monday. Now, I don't mean the song by New Order. No, Blue Monday. Blue Monday has become regarded by many as the hardest day of the year. After all the Christmas spirit is now gone, and we are here in the depths of winter. It is dark. It is cold. There is little light around, and spring seems far, far away. The daylight hours will increase over the coming weeks, but still we must face winter. January and February can be difficult as we feel stuck in the cold of these dark winter evenings. Now, it seems to have hit me a little earlier actually, because last Monday I felt somewhat exhausted and a bit blue myself. Now, there were good reasons for this. I was not fully over the virus that had struck me down over Christmas. But despite these feelings and feeling a bit blue and a bit low and maybe not 100% better, I went out into a snowy day with Molly, and I went out into town and into the park, and I bumped into people I know and connected and chatted away. Folk who were wishing each other a happy new year and talking about their Christmases, etc. Talking about their own illnesses as well a bit, actually. Molly enjoyed the snow. She loved playing in it. She didn't so much like the cold and the wet on the way home, and she was happy to get home, curl up in the comfort of her bed and the warmth of the house, and she slept pretty much the rest of the day. Very content in the warmth and comfort of home. I got on with some work, and then I took the Christmas tree down and the decorations. As I was doing so, I felt some sadness, especially as I packed away and put them away the gifts that I bought for family and loved ones that I'd wrapped but had been unable to deliver and give, as I was too unwell to travel at the time when family were all together. So my mood was a bit low. I was feeling sorry for myself, somewhat fatigued. My throat was feeling sore again, and which was troubling me as I was supposed to be singing later. I also had my concern for folks in my life, particularly two friends who are really struggling at the moment, and the concern for the two communities I serve and the challenges that they have to face together, and the wider world in which we all live and breathe and have our being, concerns that have grown as the week has gone on. Nothing new here, of course. The choir that I have joined and loved being a part of was getting back together for the new year that night. I'd not been for a while due to health reasons, etc. I missed the Christmas concerts because of that. And I was feeling rough and a bit sorry for myself that as the day went on, I considered not going. And then I saw some messages on the WhatsApp group, and I went into the vestry here and printed off some of the music we were doing. I had a look through what we were doing a couple of new ones. And I thought, go on, have a little faith. Go on, you'll enjoy it. Thank goodness I went. It was lovely to catch up with folk who I'd not seen for a while. It was wonderful to connect with them and to share our tales. And of course, most importantly, it was wonderful to sing. I found comfort, I found connection, I found community, and I found joy. I got right into what I was doing. Really into it, actually. Enthusiasm was bursting from my being. In fact, the choir leader said at one point, I don't usually like to single people out, she said, but I'm going to do. And I want you to look at Danny, and I want you to have the same kind of energy that he's putting into this. Apparently, I was giving this song, which was a pop song that I wouldn't normally sing actually, but I was getting really into. I was giving it just the right amount of sass, which is what she'd been asking for. So, yeah, singing Waterfalls, I seem to have got into the spirit of it, and she wanted the others to give it as much as I was giving it, I guess. It led to much laughter, and that was just what I needed that evening. I needed the joy of singing and the comfort of community. My soul needed it, and it gave me a wonderful sense of well-being. And this got me thinking about the importance of well-being, especially during this time of year. I know my physical, mental, and spiritual well-being are all interconnected, and if one of them is out of sync, they can all be out of sync, actually. Something I've re-experienced in the last few weeks. And because of this, often at this time of year, we resolve to live more healthily lives. People do gym membership soars, and we want to improve our physical well-being. I know I benefit from that if I just get into it again. It's on our minds in winter, physical well-being, just because, people have been unwell and nasty viruses about that ruined one or two Christmases. It really gave mine a good kicking. So physical well-being is on our minds. But while there's a lot of talk of improving our physical well-being, which is vital, of course it is, there's not as much talk of taking care of our spiritual well-being, which actually might be more vital. If I have learnt anything in life, I know that my emotional, mental and physical well-being, that it rests upon my spiritual health. I do remember a wise man saying to me over 20 years ago, if you are spiritually well, the rest will be taken care of. And that's turned out to be true, You can't put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, sorry. There you go. My mind getting twisted there. You can't put the cart before the horse. A lesson I must never forget. First things first, they say. Spiritual well-being is vital. And I know this because it's something I have lacked at times in my life, and when I have, life was difficult. You become like an empty vessel and rudderless and blown about in the wind. And people recognise the importance of spiritual well-being more and more, how it's so key to how we live in the world this day. Spiritual well-being is vital to a life of meaning and a life of purpose. And yet in our secularised time, we seem to neglect this sometimes. People can have the perfect buffed body. They can have a sharpest of sharp minds, and yet you can still feel completely empty, alone and disconnected because you're spiritually unwell too. We must never, ever neglect our souls, however you understand that word. The core of our being, the place that gives our life richness and meaning. Now, I know when I'm spiritually unwell, I don't have much of a sense of humour. Monday morning I didn't have. I noticed it deeply. I was in a serious mood. But by the end of the day, I was free. I was jolly and laughter and full of life and connected to. I was full of good humour. Being back in the community of life, I felt free and connected and had this wonderful sense of well-being. As I've heard said many times, life is far too serious a business to be taken too seriously. I think it's a play on some words by Oscar Wilde, but I might be wrong there, by the way. I do remember an old biology teacher and PE teacher, who I won't name, but he's no longer with us, sadly, actually. I remember when I was a boy at school, maybe 14 years old, telling me that a man who cannot laugh at himself will always struggle in life. Another thing I've never forgotten. I didn't like it at the time, and I didn't like the fact he said it to me, but the truth of the matter was I took myself far too seriously at that point in my life, and he could see that quite clearly. I took everything so personally. But thankfully, I learned many years ago that if I ever want a good laugh, I only have to listen to myself. There's now more amusing than some of the crazy stuff I say, and some of the people I love does daily. So the level of my humour is one of my spiritual barometers. Actually, when there is no humour in me, when I take myself far too seriously. I'm not saying I don't take what I do seriously. I do. Anybody who knows me knows that. But I know that when I'm in good humour, I'm usually in good health too. And I'm not alone in this, as I've shared many times. To be in good humour is to be in good health. The word, if you'll have heard me say before, humour is derived from a medieval medical term for the fluids of the human body, from the French word humeur, derived from the Latin humer. The physicians of medieval times believed that we had 4 coloured fluids, internal fluids, that needed to be in balance. And if these were in balance, we were in good humour, we were in good health. It literally, and over time that word became associated with laughter again, and yes, and the way we where we see ourselves in the world. But originally it meant our well-being, physical well-being, essentially. Interesting how these things change, how words change and develop in meaning is one of my great fascinations. It teaches me so much about the human condition, actually. Now, of course, the balance of our humors, our human, is not why so many of us have suffered winter viruses. That's just a seasonal thing that's hit the population hard this year. So it can't affect that. But I do suspect it might have an impact on our recovery and maybe coming through the winter blues. Maybe not the winter colds or flus, but the winter blues. I think good humour helps there. Good spiritual and physical and mental and emotional health. Having these things in balance is vital to living through the winter. And I mean living, not just getting by. But yeah, the word humour is one of those fascinating words. And as you know, I love language. I love the roots. I love the meaning of words. And humour is a great example of that. I especially love how words like humour have changed in meaning over time. Or how some words just get lost and disappear and are refound, like the word respect, this new fresh hope I often talk of. New words or changing words that come into our culture just fascinate me. And one word that's come into prominence in recent years is the word Hygge. Hygge. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not Scandinavian. It is a word of Scandinavian origin, primarily Danish, but also Norwegian. And according to Louisa Thompson-Britt in the book of Hygge, Hygge is defined as a quality of presence and an experience of belonging and togetherness. It is a feeling of being warm, safe, comforted, and sheltered. Hygge is an experience of selfhood and communion with people and places that anchors and affirms us, gives us courage and consolation. I reckon Molly was feeling that on Monday afternoon after playing in the snow. And it's certainly a feeling I felt that evening as I was singing with the people I sing with. And it's something I find in spiritual communities of all kinds too. It gives me an enormous sense of well-being, shall we say. Now, interestingly, last autumn, the choir, Altrincham Sings, Alti Voices, we recorded a version, a play on the lyrics change from the song that Park Life by Blur. It was the words and the tune was slightly altered, so there was no copyright infringement. We also created a video of us singing this, and it was to help promote the Oh Yeah art collective that's now based at the town hall and where Alti Voices, Alti Singers practice. And the cry throughout the song was, get some community. I'm not going to sing it all now, but it's quite fun. I've not seen it actually out there. I don't know if it's been used as promotional material yet, but maybe one day. But I was thinking about this the other day, and it got me thinking of one of the lines from the original song, Park Life. And I think it goes something like, gives me a sense of enormous well-being. Isn't that a great line? Isn't it something we all strive for, an enormous sense of well-being? And I think this enormous sense of well-being is at the heart of Hygge. I feel there is much that we can learn from Hygge that can help us improve our well-being as individuals and a community. Hygge helps Danes imagine who they are and how they should be together. There is something of the collective. It's not merely about individual well-being. Hygge began to come into prominence globally, actually, really, in the last few years due to people's growing fascination with Scandinavian countries, which kind of came to prominence following the launch of the United Nations Happiness Report in just over 10 years ago now. And in this happiness report, both Denmark and Norway, over the years since, I think it was first published in 2012, these two countries have never been out of the top 3 with regards to levels of happiness among their populations. Could Hygge have something to do with that? Well, who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's just one of those things. Who knows? So I've been thinking about Hygge and wondering where it comes from, and looked into it, of course, and there are various theories as to its origin. It appears to be rooted in the 19th century. Some trace it back to the Biedermeier movement, which developed as a reaction to some early 19th century revolutionary passion throughout Europe. But during this period, artists and designers returned to the home. They developed their private lives as a reaction against the public pretensions of the upper class, this burgeoning middle class that was developing at the time. Another theory suggests that it was influenced by what was considered to be a kind of more liberal, guilt-free Protestantism that was developing in Denmark compared to their Scandinavian neighbours. It was a bit freer and not as dour, I guess. Established by the theologian N.F.S. Grundtvig. And also it developed under the social democratic and egalitarian values of the Danish people, of course. Again, unlike other parts of Europe, perhaps. The central concept of Hygge life, according at least to Louisa Thompson Brits, that she wrote in her book, The Book of Hygge, is equality of presence and a feeling of belongingness and togetherness. It is a feeling of being warm, safe, comforted and sheltered. I look at my little dog and that's when she's so happy and at ease. And I could learn from her, she just does it naturally. Hygge is a state of being, a way of being and living in the world. It's not something you possess. Because people want to buy a lifestyle, don't they? No, it's a quality of hominess. It's a way of being. It's how to be welcoming, hospitable, of being warm and safe and sheltered. It enables the other to feel that way too as they come into your company. So it's a welcome too. It's not unique to the Danish people, of course, themselves. They certainly don't think it's something that's unique to them. It's a quality, really, that's meant to be at the heart of all the great religious and spiritual traditions of humanity, actually. It's hospitality in its most basic form. Certainly at the heart of the Abrahamic faiths, but, you see it in the Eastern traditions too. It's at the heart of our humanity, so of course it's there. But it's something that sometimes can get lost in as our culture becomes more individualistic and we live much more fast-paced and competitive lives. Hygge has been described as the art of creating intimacy, of cosy togetherness, of taking pleasure in the presence of soothing things. And although it's often developed through cosy material things, warming by the fire with thick socks and that, it's really more about creating a particular atmosphere or a way of shaping an experience. Hygge is about creating a communal atmosphere of simplicity and of presence. It's about living by soulful presence. It's about how to be with each other and about nurturing those relationships so as to build respect, goodwill to all, and hope, and doing it with all your heart, and with all your mind, and with all of your soul. It's about being good neighbours to all and everyone. It's about creating a quiet space in the rush and the push of life. It's about enabling a soulfulness to come out of hiding so that it can express itself fully in our lives. And in so doing, we invite the other to do so too. In so doing, we will truly be enabled to love our neighbours as we love ourselves, to live by the greatest commandment of all. And don't we all need such places? We live in and through the storms of life. The storms are hitting this country this weekend, although not in Altrincham, it seems. But there are storms of all kinds in life, both in terms of the weather, but also internally and in our cultures and societies. We see it all the time. There are many storms brewing in the wider world. People need shelter from them. It's about slowing down and being more simple and humble, I think, really. Hygge is about love and appreciation of the simple, close-to-hand things in life. It encourages gratitude for the everyday moments in life. It's about equality and equality, about working together. It has deeply spiritual qualities, but not ones about in the clouds. They're very earthy, grounded, centered things. It recognises the worth of each and every person, the inherent worth and dignity of all. It desires peace and harmony, equality for all, and a heartfelt appreciation of the natural world. It builds trust and connection between people. It is about harmonious living. It celebrates the simple pleasure of being alive wherever you find yourself in life. It encourages soulful presence. Now, to me, this is the essence of spiritual living, of living spiritually alive. And by living this way, you encourage others to come and join in with you, to come as they are, exactly as they are. Hygge is about creating intentional intimacy, an intimacy with ourselves, with God, with one another, with all of life. It is the spiritual life grounded in the earth. It's about living by that divine commandment, I believe, to love God and to love our neighbours as ourselves. Hygge draws meaning from the fabric of ordinary living. It's a way of acknowledging the sacred in the secular, of giving something ordinary a special context, a special spirit and a warmth, and taking time to make the ordinary extraordinary. I invite us, us, all of us, to adopt an attitude of Hygge. To do it now, perhaps, and of course in the days to come. In the middle of this winter, in the bleak midwinter. Maybe it's what we need on Blue Monday. It will enable us to touch those deeper aspects of our own humanity and to bring us all together and hold one another in a communal and spiritual hug in our hearts and our halves by the fire and the warmth of our hearts. It will give us an enormous sense of well-being. And don't we all want to be well? May we all be well. May we live by well-being. Let us live in and by the spirit of Hygge. So I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. We need to bless more, and we can all bless. And we bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So let's go back into the world once more. Let's go back filled with a sense of belonging, a sense of well-being in the spirit of Hygge. Let us touch and be touched in heart and mind and soul with all that is and all that has been and all that will ever be. Let us go into our world filled with life and filled with love. And may we carry this love with us, and may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Ooh, keep warm. Amen.